Hi, this is Sai and welcome to the other side of the car park garden, the side which is not doing well. In this video, I'm going to dissect it for you, what needs to be done here, what's going wrong here, and give a few pointers. So let's start with some observations, what exactly is happening here. That's always a good way to start analyzing a problem and finally coming towards a solution. Now this is the patch where spinach is growing. Now I can see that there is a bit of discoloration in the leaves, and the growth also seems a bit stunted. Now the spinach that you see here and the spinach that you would have seen there in the last video, these were planted at the same time and I was expecting the same kind of growth, but the more I see here, I find that there's hardly been any growth in the past 2 weeks. So this is an area of concern. Now coming further, this was an area where I had put fenugreek. However, later I found out that the fenugreek seeds itself had some problem. So I had put the same seeds in another patch, and they were not germinating, they were not coming out. So I found out that here in this patch fenugreek didn't come because the seeds were not good. However, you can see here that I have again amaranth. Now amaranth is literally omnipresent in this garden of mine, and this is what you can see here. Now this is, as I said, going to seed, and even in this small space, small root depth, it can do really well. And because I'm planning to harvest this amaranth and use it in some kind of food preparations, let me just take it out completely from the ground so that you can have a look at its root structure. Now, even as I'm trying to take out, you can see how much it is disturbing the potting mix that I have here, and that gives you a very good indication as to how far the roots have gone. So let me just try to do it gently, and you see that there's the kind of a root structure that it has. And just look at those, look at this side. These are the side roots, and you can see how far they are going. So that is one of the reasons why this is so prolific, and it can really literally spread roots pretty far so that it survives. And this is looking really good. The rest of the plants in this area seem to be doing pretty bad, but this has no issues whatsoever. Now I have a couple of weeds here and certain unwanted things, so nothing much to talk about this side. Now coming further, this is where I had put in coriander. Again, the same problem, the seeds were not that good, and what you will see here is hardly any coriander. There is a couple of grass growing here, 2 or 3 different types of grass, again a few amaranth, and that's it. Going further, this is the place where spinach, I put in spinach, and in the very first video, or probably in the second video, I was talking of how this area of the garden where I had put in spinach, I had compared this area with that area, and I was talking of why this area was not doing good, and I was talking of windbreaks and stuff. Well, this place is not doing any better right now, and although there is a bit of spinach there looking good, which I will harvest it, but nothing else is growing here. You can see that this is all barren. Now coming further, this is where I had put in dill. Now dill, I did harvest a couple of it during the last video, and that's about it. I didn't get much of it, and even the one which I was getting was getting dried, and you can probably see that a couple of it is yellow. So this was also having problems. Now the big question is that why is this side not doing well, whereas this side, I hope you can see that, this side is doing so well. That is the question that I'm trying to solve today, and let's start. So I stay in Hyderabad, which is in India, and to my right this is the east, and here I have the west. Now even if you look right now into the garden, let me just quickly show this to you. Can you see that left part is more illuminated than the right part? Well, this should be giving you an idea. This is afternoon here. This is about 3:30 here in India, and you can see that this portion, this left portion, is still illuminated, whereas there is shade in this part of the garden. Now, in a place like India, where the average temperatures can be pretty high throughout the year during the daytimes, what happens is that plants do not require this kind of excessive sunlight. If they are getting sunlight from one direction, that is, especially if they are getting the morning sun, that is enough for them. They don't require the evening sun. If they are getting both the morning as well as the evening sun, what happens is that the plants start getting stressed. Now, when the plants start getting stressed, what happens is, you would have seen that I started squinting. In a similar way, what plants start doing is that they start giving lesser cross section of their leaves towards the sun. So they'll want to fold inside, so that whatever happens, less area of leaf is exposed to sun, so that they can prevent the moisture loss from the leaves. Secondly, they require more water. Why? Because the potting mix gets dehydrated pretty fast. So although I was watering both the sides of the garden once every 2 to 3 days, this side, the side which is not doing well, always required extra water because it was getting dry faster. And if I was delaying the watering, because I was watering, or I thought it was sufficient to water the left side of the garden, the side of the garden which is doing good, once every 2 to 3 days, the right side was suffering because it just didn't have enough reserves of water which would be helping it out. So that is point number one. That is one reason why this side is not doing good. Now let's jump over to the second point. Now, it's not just the heat from the sun above that is a problem. The problem also lies underneath. Now, this car park is essentially having a floor of stone. Now, stone, as you know, can absorb a lot of heat and it can give out that heat. And I have noticed in summers that it is very, very difficult even to walk on this surface during the peak afternoon sun, because it simply gets too hot. Now, what that does is that because a lot of heat gets accumulated here, it starts getting released. And when it starts getting released, it starts affecting the roots of these plants. And roots, mind you, like uniform temperatures, and they don't like too much heat, because that's how it is below the surface of the earth. So the roots start getting affected and they start affecting the overall growth of the plant and the overall health of the plant. So that's point number two. Now, why didn't it affect this part of the garden? Well, the answer is a bit simple, isn't it? I have these things growing at a height, so that even if there is heat here which is being radiated out, the roots of these green vegetables, which would be somewhere here, will not be affected too much. Also, because this side is not getting the western sun, what happens is that the associated heat that these stone floor would be having is again not affecting the plants here. So this side again continues to do well, whereas this side looks barren, a bit diseased and full of weeds. Well, that's not quite it. There is the third point coming up, and let me show that to you. Now, in front of me I have a tray which was supposed to be growing microgreens, but right now you can see that it is a complete pool of water, and you can see that the potting mix is completely hydrated with water, and it's got a particular and a peculiar feeling to it, which you can see here. Now, it didn't rain today, it didn't rain yesterday, it did not even rain day before yesterday, but still you can see that the kind of water that is being held here, despite the sun that I was talking about previously. Now, what happens is you can see the similar thing happening here in the potting mix. This potting mix is extremely wet, not moist, it's pretty much wet, and roots again don't like too much water near their roots. They say that roots actually require moisture, they don't even require water. and what we are doing here is that we are providing water, and what that is doing is it is leading to things like probably root rot, which is again affecting the overall health of the plant. Now the reason for this is again this small height. Now had this bed been raised a bit more, what would have happened is that just like on this side of the garden, whenever there is excess rainfall, this potting mix can hold quite a bit of water and release it whenever it is required. However, here that chance not being there, the effect on plants is direct. And secondly, there is also a chance that nutrients get leached out pretty fast, because again the depth of the raised bed is not that much, and that again affects the health of the plant. So these are the three things which I feel need to be rectified, so that I can have a garden which looks like this on this side. So you see how setting up a garden involves taking into factor lots of things like sunlight, the heat that can be radiated from the floor down below, the wind, and the kind of rains that you are getting in your region. That's why in permaculture a lot of focus, a lot of effort is put into design, because design ensures that your garden is not just productive for a few weeks, few months, or for a few seasons, but rather your garden is productive, is super healthy throughout years. So join me in my next video as I try to design this place, trying to use principles of permaculture so that this design gives this garden the kind of longevity that I require. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.